All right, how you doing, America? Why did I say that? Welcome, YouTube. Wanted to start off this Ukraine coverage with something that I think I'm going to do a little bit moving forward, but I just wanted to start off with a moment of silence. And we're just going to go ahead and hide the chat here so that we can have an actual moment of silence, because I'm sure someone's going to want to ruin it. But I wanted to have a moment of silence for the heroes that we're seeing dying in Ukraine. This is a U.S. Army infantry veteran killed in Ukraine. His name was Dalton Medlin, and I just wanted to give 10 seconds of silence to Dalton here. Dalton was absolutely a hero, and you know, he went out there with the best of intentions, and everything I've read about him is that he was a consummate professional, and he will absolutely be missed by his friends, family, and both Ukraine and the United States, as well as all free-loving, democracy-loving individuals in the world. So thank you, Dalton, for making the ultimate sacrifice. Yes, he's an American. All right. Wanted to show this because this is rare, and you do have these sorry sad sacks on the right wing. All right, Murdercom, that is your final comment. I think I put up with your shit long enough. Thank you so much. I think Murdercom wants to be banned, so there you go. Actually, officially done with you now. That's a shame too, because Murdercom's been coming here for several months. So I'm sorry to see Murdercom go, but with comments like that, I think it's time to go. There's the door, buddy. So anyway, back to this story here. This is a right-winger being asked. You know, so this is something that I just can't do. Okay, I am incapable of doing this. I think. I don't know. Maybe I could do this. Have a calm conversation with an idiot who is just listening to the morons around him. Oh, I forgot the chat. Sorry. Thank you. Bring that back. For anybody that's curious, I am an American immigrating into Canada. So I'm currently an American immigrant living in Canada, trying to get my citizenship here in Canada. So, Cam Goblin, you need to get yourself a boyfriend. This parasocial relationship that we have is going too far, buddy. Time for you to get laid. But anyway, this is interesting because it's very rare, but they do exist. Right-wingers that are like, they just, because all the people around them are right-wing. Anytime that they turn on the news and watch it for 5 minutes, it's Fox News or some right-wing channel. And they think, well, this is just normal. This is just normal politics, is this right-wing bubble. And they're not really questioning the things that they're repeating. And you're going to see this here. He's like word for word repeating right-wing talking points. And he doesn't, when pushed on it to logically connect these dots, he's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe, yeah, that doesn't actually make a lot of sense why I would be saying that. So you'll see what I mean. It's actually quite nice. I wish more right-wingers were like this gentleman here, who were honestly, there are people in the world that are just trying to find the truth. And they just haven't been told the truth yet. They're rare. They're pretty rare. But they do exist. All right, so let's get into it here.
Foreign policy. Biden's foreign policy is awful.
What about it do you not like?
I don't like how he's stoking the flames of war, basically. Ukraine, I don't think we should be as big of a part of that as we are.
Why not?
It's kind of their fight, honestly. I don't think it's really our place to be sending all of our taxpayers' dollars over there. You know,
Not even 5% of the military budget is being sent. All of our taxpayer as if we stop supporting Ukraine, money will be flowing into the middle and lower class. I mean, it's completely. You would have to be listening exclusively to right wingers to think that.
just
when a country attempts to invade a sovereign country right next to them, don't you think we should attempt to at least preserve liberal democracy across Europe in any way we can?
I mean, I guess it kind of depends. I just think in that situation, we shouldn't. They're pretty corrupt, in my opinion.
More corrupt than Russia, though?
No, I wouldn't say so.
It feels like there's
See, and that is a key difference between most of the right wingers that you're talking to and individuals like this. You know, I honestly feel like he's just, like I said, he's just kind of a product of his environment, his friends, his family. You know, when he's seeking out news, he's seeking out trustworthy sources, and they're all reinforcing all this. So it just seems like common sense, these right-wing narratives to a fellow like this. But he doesn't want the worst for everybody. He's not a quote unquote deplorable. He's not a deplorable.
Say so.
It feels like there's an alternate reality where we didn't do anything at all, and Russia was able to take Ukraine with absolute ease. You know, they were able to just march in there, take everything, and then what's next? What if they want to take the next country, and then the next country? Eventually, it's going to turn into U.S. soldiers having to get involved. We literally gave like a very small portion of our GDP, and we've crippled our biggest enemy, both militarily and economically, right? Russia's not going to recover for decades. Doesn't it feel like this was a good return on investment?
Yeah, I guess yeah.
Doesn't it feel like, from a conservative point of view, we should be trying to cripple our enemies with the least amount of deaths and the least amount of investment possible?
I agree.
And this allowed that
It's a very conservative argument, and that's what makes this opposition to what's happening so bizarre, because like this is like, you know, this is a Dick Cheney wet dream what's happening in Ukraine right now.
happen.
Then yes, it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, cool.
I agree. Yeah, and I agree with your point that we don't want him to keep going on.
Yeah.
If we didn't intervene with Ukraine. I don't know. I guess it kind of makes sense.
There's a middle ground to every topic, right? So
There's hope. That's why I'm here. There's hope. Okay? By hook or by crook, we're going to get this man health care. By hook or by crook, we're going to get this man, for his children to have a college education. I want to raise your wages. I want you to afford a home. I want you to afford a boat. That fancy-ass $1,000 grill. That new porch. I want you to have that, man. That's the progressive way. There's hope out there, folks. But look, when you got a guy, and we see him in the chat. I don't know how many I've banned today, but we see him in the chat. Intractable. Not interested in facts or information or some kind of debate. Interested in winning. Right? I don't care if I'm right. All that matters is that I'm on top, that I've won. That you have to listen to what I say to me. What do right wingers have to say about divorce? A woman shouldn't be able to just get divorced whenever she wants. So you should be able to legally hold a woman captive, basically. So, just play your cards right when you're around individuals like this. Right? Once in a while, you might get the unicorn that actually wants to listen. Hey, doesn't it make sense to not let an empire just invade countries willy-nilly? Requets. Yeah, I think I recognize that username. Welcome back from Europe. All right, moving on to our next story here. Man, it's tough. It's fucking tough, man. I'm going to have a hard time talking about this shit. Because what do we see? Putin lashing out, killing over 50 civilians in a single strike. Non-military target. Just make them suffer. Just make a pile of dead, innocent Ukrainians, said Putin. And it only makes my resolve stronger. It only makes my support for Ukraine stronger. It's a pain in the ass having to make a nuanced argument against the military-industrial complex while also supporting, yes, weapons, armament, soldiers, planes, tanks to Ukraine. Do you know how difficult that is as a leftist? to continue to fucking point out the failures of the military-industrial complex, the outrageous crimes of the American empire, to continue to point those out while also supporting Ukraine. So I will continue to do that. It's a massive, massive pain in my ass. Because you can't just have a straight conversation. It's not like World War II. Like, fuck the Nazis, let's get them. It's not, because it's like geopolitics. The United States isn't there because they love democracy. They're there because this is hurting Russia on a discount. But I also support Ukraine in their efforts to create a democracy separate of the Russian Empire, regardless of the geopolitical realities. But it only makes me want to do that more, to put the energy into making those nuanced and context-filled arguments more, to see shit like this. This is not breaking my resolve. Yeah, we're fucking up Russia on a discount, man. We're refreshing our stockpiles like we would normally and just sending the surplus over to Ukraine. Obviously, we needed to be doing a lot more. The fact that artillery shell production isn't at a record high right now is a major, major issue. How are we having ammo shortages, America? We don't have ammo factories cranking out artillery shells. What's the holdup? So I'm going to show you this trigger warning. I don't think there's any dead bodies. I can't show you the dead bodies. I assure you, there's over 50 of them, and at least one of them is a child. You bet. You bet I do. Requets, I do. You bet. I mean, that doesn't, but it doesn't, this effort does not absolve the United States empire of the crimes that they committed in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam, and the current crimes against Cuba, the current crimes against Venezuela, Iran. Oh, well, thank you, Chem Goblin, for that clarification. This specifically is in Kharkiv. The massacre that I was talking about happened in Horza. Another big, important military target. Oh, some family maybe making breakfast. Got to do something about that. So tired of the Russian government spending millions and millions of rubles to kill Ukrainian civilians. We're not talking about, military targets here. Yeah. Well, the International Criminal Court is a fucking joke, and it's a joke because of the United States of America. The fact that Dick Cheney could go to places and he was officially labeled a crime against humanity, a criminal against humanity. He's allowed to fly to Paris and fly everywhere else, and he's not arrested instantly. It shows the whole system to be a hypocritical joke. So I wanted to show this here. Moving on to our next story here. This is a very interesting Channel 4 expose of what it's like to live in a Ukrainian community that is being attacked by Russia. I mean, could you imagine? You're like a farmer, you're like you're on a homestead, you're living your damn tractor life, nothing complicated, keeping it real simple. And you got to worry about a massive country with all these resources, throwing cruise missiles and drone bombs into your home, into your little 4 or 5 room, very small little houses. Real legitimate threat. Could you imagine? I don't think a lot of rural Americans could even imagine what that would feel like.
Oksana is racing the clouds. A storm is closing in, but hundreds of families need the donations that she's gathered in the back of her truck.
Wow.
Дуже тяжко.
Got a hero right
Але
here.
людям ще найтяжче. Це нам тяжко. У мене є будинок, у мене є меблі, у мене є Є моя сім'я, а у людей нема нічого.
They don't have furniture. They don't have
In
clothes.
Chernihiv, the first summer after the war began, everyone here needed something. When the rain hits, it's the kind of downpour that sends kids scrambling. The grandmothers stay put. They've got more important things to do. Some need much more than furniture. 6 months after their street was destroyed by Russian bombs.
Сиділи в підвалі все время, поки не згорів дом, да. Згорів, збіжали
Thanks,
на
Kim Goblin. I
Бобровець. Как и
appreciate,
все,
I
многие тогда
appreciate that,
бежали
you
на
know.
Бобровец.
Thank you.
И
No,
мы
thank you. I
побежали.
didn't- Sometimes I don't know that
Потом
I'm saying
закончили
shit like that
бомбить,
over and over
вернулись
again.
сюда.
You know?
Вот. Спим там, где спим, да.
Можна.
Я не хочу ці рани так знов піднімати це все, як ото, знаєте, в болоті. Скаламутиш воду, вона наче чистенька, прозора, як її скаламутиш, то всі ці спомини, вони вилазять назовні. Краще
Interesting analogy.
пам'ятати щось добре, так?
Бо задати є багато чого.
Сонечко моє,
Не хочу.
сонечко моє.
Oh, these
The
folks,
sun
man.
returns,
Трошки по калюжам.
cool puddles under bare feet. Brief moments of joy.
Продовжується, тепленько, правда?
Next stop is Olga's place. As an old closet
These old ladies are really something else. They're holding the entire Ukrainian civilization together, quite frankly.
is unloaded, she catches a glimpse of herself.
Март, апрель. Больше 3 месяцев я не видела себя в зеркале.
А тепер що ви підбігли і сказали?
У меня есть зеркало. У меня есть
Дивіться, ось
зеркало.
воно. Гляньте,
Ось воно.
ось зеркало.
Велике,
Бачите,
яке можна-
велике.
Можно положить расческу на место, можно положить... Все можно на место положить. Все, места для всего хватит.
Oh, that's
Всё,
great.
Предел мечтаний.
That's
Предел.
great.
Olga liked to surround herself with beautiful things. She lost 300 paintings when her house was bombed.
Wow.
Everything she owns now is in a single room. She's ashamed of the mess. Dignity is a luxury here.
And to all the justifiers and capitulators and defeatists on Twitter, this is all justified. Yeah, and they say it with a straight face, and half of them say it with a smile because they think it's so fucking funny to do this to people. That they somehow deserve it. That's why I'm here, man. I can't abide by that shit.
And
Exactly,
today,
kissing Gonzo.
there's none. Some grab more than they're allowed to take. That volatile summer ended as it began.
These are canned food in a can, I would assume. That's why they're so heavy and, you know,
Long hot
swinging around
days
there.
brewing into violent storms.
They're doing everything they can to get people things that they need. Man, it's just unbelievable strength.
Winter would make everything harder still. A full year since the first bombs fell across Chernihiv city, the snow came back. But it is apples now dropping from the skies. The front lines have moved east, but the streets of these suburbs remained in ruins.
Вікно, отут під вікном, ось це я маю доходу, тут у мене була стінка, і на стінці такі ті самі, як полки, отут на полках в мене стояла апаратура. Це маленька комнатка тут у мене була, а то була дальня комната, вона холодна почему-то все время там.
It's unrecognizable to Anatoly now.
Wow.
It is painful to come back,
It's just a
but he's
foundation.
drawn here. Even without his house, this place is still his home. Patience is fraying.
Сюди заходите, всі, будь ласка, скажіть мені, будь ласка, чого ви всі зайшли? Вийдіть, будь ласка, на вулицю,
Куратори, будь ласка,
за вами не можна
Хто це
нічого
куратори? От я.
Всі вийдіть.
Many are still living rough, but now it's freezing.
Моя черга, моя черга.
Не цієї людини черга.
Ні, моя зараз черга.
Oksana sees someone that she knew in a past life, the brother of her old classmate.
You know, she's not being harsh. She's just trying to make sure everyone's getting their fair share.
They're both on their way to the battlefield.
I wish I could join you, DCH. I really
Her
do.
gift, 2 protective amulets.
Поняв?
Поняв.
Даю таки з таким условием. Щас ще...
But the war isn't going anywhere. And this summer, explosions return to the city.
Oh shit! I better hold on. Let me just make sure. No, okay. No bodies.
Just as Chernihiv, so far from
International regiments in Ukraine? You mean the Ukraine's Foreign Legion? I think they're brave warriors and they're doing what they can. I think, you know, some of those guys they're there for adventure or whatever, but they're there fighting against Russia and they're bringing their military expertise. You don't get to just sign up. You got to be bringing something to the table. So we're talking about trained, skilled warriors most of the time, contributing their skills and energy and lives in some cases, as we saw at the beginning of the stream or beginning of the Ukraine segment. I think they're heroes.
the front line had begun to recover. A Russian missile struck the town center in August, injuring scores of people and killing 7, including a 6-year-old girl.
А ми тую червону калину підіймемо, а ми нашу славну селимо. Вы знаете, что я хочу стать военным?
Почему?
Потому что что берегти Украину.
In the beginning, Oksana thought that the war would end quickly. When it didn't, she hoped that each season might bring Ukraine closer to victory. Instead, the country's soldiers grind on, and so too do its communities.
Dirty crackhead, I didn't say that. So, please don't put words in my mouth and make some kind of, that's not a logical conclusion. Supporting Ukraine's foreign legion does not inherently mean I support all foreign legions and their actions. Come on, buddy.
Rebuilding in very slow motion.
Matt Fry with that report from Lviv-based.
All right. Unfortunately, I do have one more segment that's a little bit depressing like that. Let's just get it out of the way, and then we can move on. Speaking of foreign soldiers, yeah, I do have some footage there. Oh, I see. DCH, yeah. All right. Well, I feel okay showing this because it's just body bags. But this it's just incredibly sad. So this was that massacre I was telling you about. One of the person's cell phones was ringing, and they couldn't. The screen was all shattered, so the coroners couldn't figure out, you know, who was calling because the screen was shattered. But as you can hear, the Ukrainian national anthem was playing. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not the Ukrainian national anthem. It's that, you know, that hit song that we hear in all the combat footage. I mean, that it really, there's been so many moments coming out of Ukraine that speak louder than any commentator could. You know, and even in death, this Ukrainian is, you know, singing almost. It's a tragic and inspiring. Is this fake, Shen? Is this fake? Really? Is that really, it's a fake? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so much propaganda. Some kind of Hollywood production right here.
Охереть. С добрым гулять утром.
So much, it's both sides. So much propaganda.
Охереть.
I don't know who to trust. I guess it's just both sides, guys.
Гулять утром. Пиздец. Охереть. С добрым.
Okay, Shen. Okay. All right. You're just asking questions, huh? I hear you. I hear you, bud. I'm rocking my baby with my foot. That's why I'm pointed this way. Thought I'd show a little, U.S. media talking about Ukraine. We haven't seen that in a bit. Expert breaks down, quote unquote, major deal of Russian retreat on Black Sea. So the country without a navy has pushed the powerful Russian Navy, the Black Sea Fleet, out of the Black Sea, out of range of the Ukrainian military's boat drones and aerial drones. It's so crazy to see the technology change the way it has. And like I said, Ukraine without a navy. I don't know. Do they have any boats left? I think all their boats, all their ships have been destroyed. All their battleships, if they had any, gone. And with a bunch of robots, they're able to take out the Moskova, literally the pride of the Russian Black Fleet. Called Moskova. It's called Moscow. Right? Imagine if the U.S. had the SS New York or the SS Washington, D.C. blown up. You're right? It wasn't even in a fight, just blown up. Doesn't even get a chance to defend itself. What would that tell you about the U.S. Navy? Well, it tells us everything about the Russian Navy. So let's get a little update.
All right, with us now, CNN military analyst, retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton. Colonel, I appreciate you being with us.
Hey, dirty crackhead. Don't be calling people morons yet. If they're just, let's see what he has to say. But keep the name calling to a minimum until we know for certain that this is a Russian shill, okay? Don't be doing that to people who first enter my chat, all right? Just take it down a notch for me.
Talk about the timing of this attack on Hroza. Here's some of the video right here. Dozens and dozens of civilians killed, an attack on a grocery store. The timing of this at the very moment when Republicans in the U.S. are talking about blocking new aid to Ukraine. What does that tell you about how much...
Do you think the Russian invasion of Ukraine is justified, Husky?
Vladimir Putin fears, or frankly, does not fear now, international outrage over his actions?
Yeah, I think, John, good morning. I think he's looking at this basically as if he's really in control of the stage right now. He is thinking that he can act with impunity. He thinks that he can make any decision, tactical or strategic, without fear of any consequences from the West. And right now he's...
Not saying that, DCH. You got to give people a chance to expose themselves before you nail them to the wall, okay, buddy? There is a lot of propaganda on both sides. That is a factual statement. Whether you support or don't support Ukraine, that is a factual statement. You got to see where he's leading that argument to. Is he trying to make a both sides argument? What the Russians did to Spain on principle, I cannot support them. Also, killing civilians is wrong. Yeah, it sure is. It's wrong when any country does it.
Gambling that the dysfunction in the U.S. Congress is going to carry over into our...
It says a lot about the international community, though, that they would be dropping support for Ukraine if Ukraine was doing the tactics of Russia, targeting civilians, right? So it is interesting that even with the weakness of the international court and The Hague and all that stuff, we still see it's bad politics to just murder people for no fucking reason. Even the U.S., right? It's like it wasn't that, we had to kind of keep it under wraps. All the wedding parties that Obama was blowing up. It's not like he could come out and say, I killed a bunch of terrorists like George Bush did, and then go back and, it's all civilians. So it is kind of an interesting geopolitical dynamic that you can't just be a barbarous murderer and get away with it anymore. It's just bad politics, which is, I guess that's a good sign.
Ability to provide aid to Ukraine. And if we don't provide the air defenses that Vladimir Zelensky has been asking for, that's going to create a real problem for the people of Ukraine, especially during the wintertime.
It is really interesting to think about that. Basically, the impact here in Hroza, what we're seeing here might be the impact of what's happening in Washington right now, some of the dysfunction in Congress. I want to ask about another development that hasn't received quite as much attention over the last few days, which is that the Russians have pulled most, if not all, of their Black Sea fleet from Sevastopol right here, all the way back.
Husky Canvas, you didn't answer my question, buddy.
Back here. across the Black Sea there, we have some satellite imagery where you can see this is the new port, not the new port, but this is where they are now. All these ships lined up in port here, and the effect of this is basically this whole side of the Black Sea, which includes the Straits in Turkey, the Dardanelles, and the Bosphorus right now, ceding it in a way to Ukraine.
Husky Canvas, you're making a contradictory statement in what you're saying. You got to clarify. You can't say you think it's justified, but it's not justified. Come up, find some better words, okay?
Allowing Ukraine to have free passage there. Has Ukraine won this stage of the battle for the Black Sea?
Temporarily, yes, and it's really...
And by the way, the United States didn't promise to not enter Ukraine. There's a lot of... That's a bit of a canard, too. It's complicated. It is complicated. NATO and Russia, because NATO was not trying to work with Russia. NATO was absolutely trying to militarily surround Russia. So it is complicated, but you find better words, man.
Interesting. And you're pointing out exactly correctly, John, that this...
and actually, your assessment of why Putin is doing it is pretty incorrect as well. I encourage you to look into Vlad Vexler and what he has to say about Putin's motivations for why he's doing this.
Allows for a de facto corridor for Ukraine to export its grain to the rest of the world, to those third world countries or sub-Saharan countries that require a lot of Ukrainian foodstuffs. And this is a major deal because what's going to happen here is that it's going to be far more difficult for the Russians to interdict, to interrupt those kinds of shipments. It's also going to be more difficult for the Russians to mount attacks. It's still possible for them to do that, as demonstrated last night, but they will find it more difficult to mount attacks against places like Odessa and other southern port cities on the Ukrainian coast.
No, it is interesting, and you can look at the map here again. What this allows the Ukrainians to do, and what they have been doing, is they've been using these shipping lanes all the way here, hugging the coast and going down through the straits there, and now easier for them with the Russian fleet all the way on that side. I want to bring up one other development that we've seen reportedly over the last few weeks. This is the Southern Front, the so-called Southern Front in Ukraine. And it's being discussed that the Russians are employing what's called an elastic defense. They have.
I encourage you to look up Vlad Vexler on YouTube, Husky Canvas. I think you might find it very enlightening.
All these lines of trenches around here. What is an elastic defense, Cedric?
So basically, it's flexible defense. What it allows the Russians to do is to pull back forces to a predetermined line. Then they can use that line to mount even greater defensive operations than they had before. It also allows them to give ground tactically in the hopes that they will regain that ground or be able to potentially even encircle the advancing Ukrainian forces. So it allows the Russians to do several different things.
I swear to God, some of you guys are like robots in the chat, dude. Vlad, VLAD, Vlad Vexler. He is a political philosopher.
Among them, in essence, conserve some of their artillery forces and some of their manpower and personnel. Now, on the other hand, they don't seem to be very good at executing that last part of it, but it does give them the opportunity to, in essence, fight the Ukrainians in a greater war of attrition than they have so far.
Colonel Cedric Leighton, always great to have you on. Thank you so much for your help this morning. Kate?
A new round of deadly Russian attacks in Ukraine.
This is
the
relevant.
latest,
Go ahead and
killing
watch it.
a 10-year-old child and his grandmother. Dozens more people were wounded. The missile attack hit residential buildings in Kharkiv early this morning. Just look at that. It also follows a massive drone attack overnight on the port of Odessa. Ukraine says several trucks.
Every military uses elastic defense if they're doing this kind of warfare. It's not Russia, Nazi, Germany. It's every military stuck in a situation like this is going to use this type of strategy, elastic defense.
Caught fire when a grain storage
Love her
facility
dress, by the way. This is like a jean dress. It's super cool.
Was hit there. We've also learned more about the massive death toll that is rising once again in one of the deadliest attacks against civilians since the invasion began. More than 50 people were killed in the missile attack in Rosa. That's one of every 6 residents living there. Dozens were at a cafe to mourn a local soldier, actually, when the building was attacked. And you can see
they were mourning a war hero, and then they became casualties of the war themselves. It was probably intentional. Probably some Russian told them, you know, some bastard said, "Oh, we'll have a bunch of veterans and other Ukrainians there. Oh yeah, great target, great military target."
See it. I mean, just absolutely destroyed. The anguish can be seen everywhere there. You can see it even in this man's face. And we're told that he's mourning over his wife's body near the side of the road. CNN's Fred Pleiken, he is live there for us and joins us now. Fred, what are you seeing there? The pictures are just so saddening. But what are you hearing and learning about this attack and what comes now?
Yeah, it's absolutely tragic, Kate. You know, we were here yesterday, shortly after this attack actually happened, and it was a scene of absolute carnage. There was debris everywhere. There were bodies still strewn everywhere, and obviously the first responders were trying to come to terms with the situation. But I can show you now, as we are sort of a day after this attack took place, you can see that this building has pretty much been reduced just to sort of the supporting walls. There really isn't very much left of it. We can also see that the first responders who we saw here yesterday, the search and rescue crews, they quickly realized that there was just no hope of finding anybody alive under all of this. So this very quickly turned from a search and rescue to a recovery operation, then obviously, as you can see, a clearing operation as well.
DCH,
if you look over there, that's pretty much what's left of what used to be this cafe and supermarket. I would say it was less.
Wow, cafe and supermarket. Absolutely worth sending a $500,000 cruise missile into. Totally viable military target.
Cafe, more sort of in a little sort of events venue, because he did have that funeral wake for that soldier that was going on. But if you look on top there, you can see there's what seems to have been a refrigerator for ice cream. So pretty clear that this wasn't any sort of military facility, and that's also what the folks here who are talking to us are telling us as well. They say that at that funeral...
You know who I really feel sorry for when I see shit like this? I feel sorry for people like this, right? Russians being taken prisoner. How do you think they feel? The Ukrainian soldiers feel taking these clowns prisoner after hearing news like that. How don't you just open fire on these sons of bitches crawling out of their little hidey hole? I don't know how you don't. I honestly don't. When you're a soldier, your job is to dehumanize your enemy, and somehow you have your commander telling you gotta, you know, because for every Russian they save, they can save a Ukrainian POW, right? That's why you do it, to save a fellow Ukrainian. But I don't know. I don't know if I have the kind of strength to not just open up, dude. After hearing that, you know, a cafe and a supermarket bombed to oblivion, 50+ dead bodies, while honoring a Ukrainian soldier. I don't know how you hear that and then continue to take prisoners. It takes a kind of professionalism I don't think I could ever reach.
Wake, it was for a soldier, but that soldier had been killed more than a year ago, and his body was being repatriated to here, and so the local folks were...
Kem Goblin, I understand your frustration, right? Because it's all bullshit, and it should all stop. I agree with you, but it's very important to make this distinction. Especially for Ukraine, it's important to make this distinction. Their professionalism is the only reason why we're still talking about this.
Coming to see, and we're coming to take part in that funeral wake, and that's when this happened. I've been speaking to folks here on the ground, the people who live here, and they say that pretty much everyone in this village has lost someone in the attack that took place here last night. I've spoken to people who were breaking down and crying because they lost so many of their friends. There's a list going around with people who have been killed, and you know, pretty much everybody who lives here has found someone who was killed in here. You can see also on the other side over there.
I mean, it's fascinating. War and death and you know, it's all fascinating. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not utterly fascinating and that it hasn't kept my attention for my entire life. But we can't glorify it. It's the end of civilization. It's the end of humanity if we start glorifying war. It is not a natural state of things. In fact, it's rather outmoded. we currently live right now in a society, in a world that really has no need for this anymore. There's just really no need for this kind of shit. That it feels like a blast from the past, really.
There's still a car that was also badly damaged. There's a sort of makeshift memorial back there that's been set up. So this entire village completely devastated. And obviously the Ukrainian government also extremely angry about all of this. The president of this country, Volodymyr Zelensky, he was in Spain yesterday. And of course, the Ukrainians right now are dealing with some of that uncertainty coming from the United States about the future of weapons deliveries or whether or not there could be delays. And one of the things that Zelensky said is that, look at this, and he says one thing that the Ukrainians need more of and can't have enough of is air defense systems. Let's listen in.
I believe that today it is impossible to protect people, especially during the winter, except by air defense. To protect people who died absolutely tragically because of this inhuman terrorist attack. 50 civilians were killed during the funeral. Russia does this every day in the Kharkiv region, and only air defense can help. And so, Europe has a lot of its own issues, different challenges, but from Ukraine's point of view, the key topic was air defense.
So there you have Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, talking specifically about how important air defense was. And of course, he said that something like this happens every day. And we are in that same region. We had this attack that happened on Thursday, and then obviously overnight that attack that happened there in Kharkiv. So certainly the Ukrainians very concerned about their air defense capabilities, Kate.
I mean, what can I say that I haven't already said, right? But I mean, like I said before, it only pushes me harder. You know, it's like that drill tweet, right? It's like, okay, be annoyed. It's only gonna make me more annoying. That's how I feel. This doesn't scare me away from it. This makes me double down. Thank you for the follow, Namek. Wow, he got some rare cringe. Look at that. Amaranth getting a hug from her mod. She loved it. I'm going to show this footage one more time. This is I think, a Ukrainian Foreign Legion. Foreign volunteers fighting as part of the International Legion of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. After storming Russian positions, take some Russian soldiers prisoner. The exact date and location are unknown. So we were... Yeah, I'm right there with you, Lenny. It's almost hard to feel, right? Because it's like, if you really felt the emotion necessary for every one of these stories, I would just be crying, man. I'd just be bawling. You know? But here we have, we're talking about the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. Oh my God. Okay, well, we've all heard that song 300 times, so we don't need to do that again, but... and like I said, the only reason they're doing this is because they know for every one of these prisoners, they get a Ukrainian soldier back. A starved, emaciated, and tortured Ukrainian soldier back. But they get him back, and that's why they do it. I tell you, the moment Russia stops doing prisoner exchanges, sad sacks like this have no hope. Sad sacks like this are doomed. The moment Russia decides it's no longer going to participate in prisoner exchanges and just starts killing or holding Ukrainian soldiers indefinitely. I mean, look at this guy. Under threat of literally being gunned down, still can't find... how apathetic you gotta be, man. What's the matter? You too good to hold your damn hands up? Coming out there looking like a limp wrist T-Rex? I don't care. I don't care about anything. Man, send your ass back home, you pathetic POS. Absolutely pathetic. Little bit of Warthog defense here. Just want to show some of the amazing clips here.
Док, веди його, вже веди його.
Taking more prisoners in this footage.
Второй руки поднял. Ты стой, ты вытягивай. Гранаты есть?
Looks like PewDiePie. I like how everyone just accepted that PewDiePie was like xenophobic, you know, anti-immigration, and he just gets to keep his audience, you know, just like JonTron. The idea that these characters get canceled, no, they just don't get mass recognition like they were getting, but they still get to keep their, you know, the little tens, you know, the thousands of people that still show up to their streams and still buy their crap. Yeah, he is.
Russian Telegram
I've seen some recent statements. I think it was a couple months ago PewDiePie came out with some statement about, you know, anti-immigration, this or that.
Channels report that an electricity substation.
I'm interested to be proven wrong about PewDiePie, but honestly, every time he pops up in the news, it's stone cold proof that, you know, he's not a left winger. I don't think so.
In Kursk region is on fire. Prior to that, local media published videos with sounds of explosions.
Never forget that Christchurch gunman telling everybody
Two
to
Russian
subscribe
soldiers
to PewDiePie
immediately
before he
surrendered
commits a
after
massacre.
their positon was ambushed by Ukrainian soldiers. Despite the hundreds of war crimes committed by the Russian army, the armed forces continue to capture the occupiers and guarantee their safety.
Док, веди його, вже веди його. Второй руки поднял.
Like I said, these boys are
Стой,
lucky.
Ти витягуй. Гранати є?
Earlier today, the Ukrainian IT army hacked the Russian Leonardo ticket booking system, which brought air traffic to a halt at major Russian airports.
Nice.
Pieces, as the IT minister said, if Ukrainian airports cannot be operational because of the war, why should Russian ones be?
Hell yeah. Oh, you love it, dude. You
And
love to
before we
see
see other
it.
news from Ukraine, let's see this
Yeah, so
extraordinary
we
event.
showed this
The first
already.
fight in Syria. U.S. wreckage of a Turkish Anka SUAV.
Oh, so we got footage of the wreckage,
This is
too.
the wreckage of a Turkish Anka SUAV in the area of Tel Tamra.
I don't know.
And back to
I don't know.
Ukraine. Video as
I do think it's really cool, these experts that like, oh no, that's absolutely, here's the serial number. Like they could just take a look at a couple pictures and verify it. It's pretty wild.
aerial reconnaissance of the combined group of the Ukrainian 129th Separate Territorial Defense Brigade, together with other units, discovered and destroyed many Russian equipment and personnel, including
fuck
the expensive
nuts, dude. Damn.
other units, discovered and destroyed many Russian equipment
Oh, you're not dodging that, dude.
and personnel, including the expensive and rare Russian RB-301B.
Yeah, no, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Warthog Defense needs to upgrade their music library. They've been using 3 songs since the start of the Ukraine war.
Borisogledsk Electronic Warfare Station.
Snow, the Islamic extremism problem, it is an interesting one. I've covered it a little bit, but yeah, no, that's quite a hot topic in Sweden. That issue where Islamic extremists are living in Sweden, they immigrated or were migrants or something, and they're basically saying that you're not allowed to have free speech, you're not allowed to burn a Quran, and right-wingers in Sweden are taking advantage of this, burning Qurans, triggering Muslims and saying, see, immigration bad, because see, they're trying to change it. But the Muslims aren't doing themselves any favors because they kind of agree. It's like, no, I do support passing a law that says you're not allowed to, draw a picture of Muhammad and all that other crap. And yeah, no, it's a free speech versus religion situation in Sweden. It's pretty fascinating. Oh, whoa! That ain't a cluster munition, is it? Look at that. Imagine being in the trench, folks. You're in the tree line trench, one of the safest places you could be, right? If you're on the front line fighting, right? It's nowhere safe on the front line, but one of the more safer locations, in a trench on the tree line. And look at that shit go up. Woo! Okay, so that's cool. They actually did they show is this the picture from the guy who shot the fucking this social media war, dude, is nuts, man. We get the he's doing all, yeah, check it out. I did that. Man, social media shit's wild. It's a howitzer? Cool, cool. There we go, another hit. I'm getting motion sick over here, dude. I don't know how much of this I could take. Oh, wow. So this is, so they're showing the, okay, so that wasn't a picture of the guy firing the weapon. Okay, they were just showing an example of it. This is a more standard, looks like a towed artillery kind of gun here. Oh, okay, there's where it hit. It's really hard to keep that camera stable. Oof. Oh, that's a pretty portable unit there. Cool. It's so hard for a non-military guy like me to like decipher what I'm looking at, especially if it's in a foreign language. All right, so they padded out with a little bit of, you know, bullshit.
The bedside table president put on a military uniform.
Bedside table president. Yeah, okay, so this, I have seen this making the rounds. I do think it is important to show this. Let's go ahead and do that.
Задал вопрос представителю Следственного комитета, можно ли об этом сказать публично. Он говорит, да, можно, это установленная информация.
The leader
oh man, you're going to a Waffle House for real? Oh man, we'll have a chicken and waffles on me, dude. I'm jealous. I love Waffle Houses. Chicken and waffles. Smoking a big fat blunt before you go in to get some chicken and waffles. Ugh. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes.
Militants of Donetsk, Pavel Gubarev, says that Russia will not be able to kill all Ukrainians, so it will have to create concentration camps in Ukraine to re-educate the local population. Russian speakers use genocidal rhetoric as usual.
У нас нет ненависти там к украинцам, у нас нету такого явления, да? Если же пообщаешься там, то это вот звериная ненависть и такая бесовщина. Не знаю, то есть как нам же и ужиться надо будет потом после нашей победы. Не вырезать их же, там, не геноцидить, там уже это все. Придется перевоспитывать кого-то там через лагеря.
Normal conversation, dog. Just
Для этого
normal
нужно
talk.
победить для начала. Победить любой ценой, это уничтожить столько людей, сколько нужно.
Man, guys like this have picked the wrong pony. You know what I mean? Putin has already lost this. It's only a question of how much can Ukraine liberate itself from Russia. That's really the only question on the table. It's just about the extent of Russia's defeat.
Победить любой ценой, это уничтожить столько людей, сколько нужно.
As a result,
a Southern American style Waffle House in Ukraine, watch out. Watch out. We'll be bringing that obesity rate in Ukraine. We'll be bringing that shit up. Bring it up.
Of a missile attack on the village of Grosa, Kharkiv region, 51 people died, including a 6-year-old child. This terrorist attack was probably planned and became another mass murder of the civilian population by the occupiers.
It feels very specific, right? They were there for a funeral for a Ukrainian soldier, right?
According to preliminary data, the strike was carried out by an Iskander missile. Inhumans hit a grocery store next to which, in a cafe, a memorial service was held for a local fellow villager.
That would be fascinating, DCH, if the Waffle House just brings the violence out in people, just brings the crazy out in people like it does in the United States. Man, fuck you, Putin. Fuck you, Putin. Fuck the Russian government. All right, folks. If you made it this far, thank you so much. You're absolutely amazing. We got one more video. about Ukraine. And I'm very specific about my fuck yous when it comes to an entire country. I didn't say fuck the Russian people, but man, I am disappointed in the Russian people. The only entity that could stop this outside of the death of Putin is the Russian people rising up and demanding more from their government, and they're not. Hey, thank you, Clutch Cargo, for being here. I do appreciate it. But no, you know, it's like you don't want to just say fuck Russia. Because it's a country is more complicated than that. But here we go. Let's get our map update about just the you know, the up to the minute or up to the hour, up to the day, roughly half day information about you know, what's happening on the front lines. Let's say it. Well, Chem Goblin, it's a little different for you, I would say.
Day 589. Today there are a lot of important updates from the Tokmak direction and Crimea. First of all, today Ukrainian intelligence released more information about yesterday's amphibious raid on the Russian base in Crimea.
Oh man, if we could get a landing, if we could get a second front, a second front in Crimea. Woo! Yes!
The video clarified a lot of questions, especially where was the high-speed boat that Russian sources were alluding to. As it turned out, the purpose of the boat was to provide cover during the withdrawal. And it makes sense because it is extremely difficult to return fire from jet skis. So when the assault units started leaving the shore, Ukrainians on the boat opened fire from a machine gun from a distance to fix Russian troops. In the meantime, fresh satellite imagery from Planet Labs revealed that there are fewer and fewer Russian ships in Crimea, and that the core of the Russian Black Sea Fleet is no longer at home in Sevastopol. Most Russian ships were relocated to Novorossiysk.
It is
More
like a
precisely,
GTA
3
mission,
submarines,
totally.
2 rocket launching ships, and 1 patrol ship.
It is it's right out of GTA, right? It's because those missions are in Grand Theft Auto. You got some guys doing something. You got to protect them with a sniper rifle, or you know, or a fixed turret. It's just like a GTA 5 mission, bro. That's wild.
Smaller and less important ships were relocated to Feodosia. 1 assault landing ship, a lot of small rocket launching ships, and minesweepers.
Pretty goddamn good for a country that doesn't have a navy. That's pretty good, I gotta say, man.
When it comes to the Tokmak direction, here Ukrainians have opened one more axis of advance, toward Kopany. The goal of this operation is to give Ukrainian forces more room for maneuver when conducting assaults on Novoprokopivka, as well as reduce the risk of a flank attack at the most inconvenient time.
You gotta take your
and this is
take
a
your
very prudent
opportunities where they
decision
are.
because the latest updates suggest that Ukrainians gradually crossed the minefields and got very close to Novoprokopivka from the east. Recently released geolocated footage shows Russian airborne units striking entrenched Ukrainian forces in a tree line just east of the village. This video confirms that Ukrainians managed to advance by almost 1 more kilometer and establish tight control over new positions.
Nice.
If Ukrainians advance along the same tree line by 600 more meters, Ukrainians will be able to attack Novoprokopivka directly from the east.
It's such a slog.
But a more tactically sound decision would be to fix Russian troops on the hills.
It's such
because
a
if we
slog.
look at the topographic map, we can see that Russians control a hill southeast of the settlement.
Hey,
this hill
they've
helps
had the high
Russians in
ground,
resisting
too.
Ukrainian assaults from the north. However, if Ukrainians start attacking this hill from the tree line, simultaneously with attacks on the settlement, Russian forces on the hill would be too busy to provide support to the units that are defending the village. The biggest Ukrainian vulnerability in this situation would be the western flank, because even if Ukrainians completely breach the Russian defense here and enter the village, Russian forces can conduct a counterattack along the ridge of the elevated platform and potentially split Ukrainian forces in half. In order to eliminate the possibility of such a disaster, Ukrainians launched a powerful attack on Kopany. Today, Russian sources reported that Ukrainian artillery fire does not cease for a minute. Ukrainian sources substantiated these claims by releasing multiple videos of how Ukrainian forces destroy Russian shelters and observation posts. By the way, this is exactly where Ukrainian fighters from the Imaterium detachments detected Russian reinforcements in the tree line and destroyed 5 armored fighting vehicles with cluster bombs. Russian sources also reported that Ukrainians are conducting their attacks at night, likely to leverage the widely available night vision equipment. Russian sources also admitted that Ukrainians managed to advance and establish control over at least 1 more trench network. Other sources, however, report that Ukrainians conducted a broad attack and managed to put all Russian fortifications on the hill in the gray zone, meaning that trenches in this region frequently change hands. And if we look at the topographic map, we can see that Ukrainians are taking control of the trenches on the tactical heights. If Ukrainians manage to push Russians into the lowlands completely, the flanks will be protected and any Russian flank attack will be met with a reciprocal flank attack from the north. If you're against the invasion of Ukraine and you want...
I mean, there you go. I know it's kind of easy to roll your eyes and just like kind of glaze over to this day-to-day stuff, and I get it. I will say that if it doesn't matter what the reality of the situation is, if Ukraine can't secure a big win, sometime it's gonna, I think they have more time than what a lot of pundits are saying that they have, but we do need a big win. We do need a big win. All right, folks. Thank you, YouTube. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Twitch. I don't know, all that crap. What am I kidding? 116 subscribers. I'm just going to buy a bunch of subscribers. So thank you so much to my robot subscribers that I bought from some bot farm in China or something. Thank you so much for subscribing. Bye.